Now, in Farrell's definition, we get something that's very, very different from what Locke was talking about. Farrell defines rhetoric as a way of making ongoing sense out of appearances by expressing them as proposed themes and arguments, inviting decision, action, and judgment. See if we can break that down a little bit. First of all, he's completely lost the idea that we can know reality. He says he's dealing with the idea that all we have are appearances. And if all we have are appearances, something that would give, Locke, Kant, and all these traditional philosophers a lot of trouble, then we have to make sense out of them, right? And he says rhetoric makes sense out of them in a specific way. It presents or expresses these appearances as themes and arguments, right? This is what I see. This is what I think is real. Another way of talking about this as a literature person is this is how I interpret things, right? Now, there's a big difference here between interpretation and an argument, or we could use the word opinion, because a lot of people have opinions about things, but it's not an argument unless you've got support for it. And we'll see that when we look at, particularly at Toulmin, right? Toulmin's all about how do we support our arguments. But what is important also in Farrell's definition is that these themes and arguments invite decision. One of the things that Farrell was interested in was the fact that when we don't know reality, we can't simply put off what we think reality is until we figure it out. Because sometimes we have to make decisions. Sometimes we have to make decisions when we're walking down the street and we see somebody walking toward us who looks threatening. We have to make a decision right away whether they actually are threatening or not, so that we know I can just walk past them, or maybe I ought to go a different direction, right? We have to make decisions all the time. And rhetoric is a way we make sense out of appearances because we have to make those decisions. In terms of this threatening person walking down the street, we can't simply say, well, I'm going to do nothing until I know for sure, rationally, till I know reality instead of appearances. I've got to make a decision. And you notice that we have to make decisions because we have to act on them, action. And when you look at Burke, you'll see some of those things going on. You know, how do we decide how to act? What do we look at? Finally, we've got to make past judgments. Once again, and sometimes these have to be very, very quick. If they're too quick, sometimes we call them prejudices. Or if we depend on snap judgments, we often call these prejudices. But we make judgments all the time on incomplete information, or what Farrell calls appearances, right? And we have to make them quickly. And we have to make them based on what we can see rather than what we know, right? Because what we know often is just prior decisions and judgments we've made about appearances, and you'll see this in Perlman.